Yeah, so a lot of this has to do with the dollar, right? So when you see the dollar continuing to stay at 20 plus year highs and it continues to grind up, it just kills all risk assets. And you can actually watch on an intraday basis how every uptick in the dollar, you'll see the opposite occurring in the Bitcoin chart or in the stock charts of the S&P as well. So a lot has to do with the dollar. We have to keep an eye on rates. Remember, as interest rates rise, there are going to be a certain amount of investors that say, hey, listen, I could get kind of a risk-free return of 5% or 4%. Why am I risking my money in Bitcoin or in the stock market when I could lose 20 or 30%? So there's this give and take going on in the market as the market tries to gauge what the heck the Federal Reserve is going to do in this coming meeting. Are they going to raise 75? Is it going to be 50? Is it going to be 100? And again, the market is just trying to figure out the levels.
$20,000 is no longer support. $100,000 didn't happen. The Bitcoin halving is 562 days away. Bears simply refuse to release their vice grip on the market, and the Federal Reserve's policy of interest rate hikes and quantitative tightening is adding fuel to the fire. Hello and welcome to Money Talks. In today's video, Gareth Soloway updates about the recent happenings in Bitcoin, gold, and the bond market. He also shares his perspective on Fed's next move and importance of crypto regulation.
We have Bitcoin that flushed early today with the stock market. The stock market was down sharply this morning. It reversed because the dollar began to pull back. And amazingly, I mean, gold was down this morning and then gold reversed basically flat on the day as the dollar came in. And you can see Bitcoin rallying up as well. So the key for me is continuing to watch this 19,500 level on a daily closing basis. The reason why that's such an important level to me is if you go all the way back to the 2017 high, that is the high pivot. And that's kind of the level we've been dancing around for a long, long time. So as long as we kind of hover around that level, there's a small chance that Bitcoin can get some sort of bid if the dollar comes in, if the Fed gives some sort of dovish speak on Wednesday that maybe shows a pivot coming for interest rates.
It's been a strenuous year for the crypto business. After hitting a high of more than $68,000 in November 2021, Bitcoin has plunged to hover around $20,000. If you're going to do this right, then what's been happening in the past 9 months is totally irrelevant. If you're investing for the next 5 to 10 years, this is just an ordinary blip in the marketplace and you can ignore it. But with Bitcoin coming off a nearly 2-year low, the short-term temperaments are being met with a mix of positive and negative factors that are guiding where the crypto community goes from here. A massive technical upgrade in Ethereum is a constructive force for the future of the world's second largest blockchain. A wave of institutional investors coming into the market and an influx of venture capital activity are also forward-looking indicators for crypto's future.
You know, gold, we've grown up, for the past 20, 40, 60 years that gold was a safety play when things got scary in risk assets. But we can clearly see that's not the case here with gold and the S&P both dipping as Bitcoin has also dipped. And again, the charts are very, very similar in terms of their price action. And again, the key here is understanding that it's the dollar that is causing the movement in both gold as well as risk assets like the stock market and cryptocurrency.
On the flip side, regulatory pressures from the Federal Reserve and Securities and Exchange Commission are working against it. That's creating this volatile market where crypto is going up and down and can't quite figure out which way to go, and we're probably stuck there, at least through September.
For the last year plus, I've been really a proponent of regulation. And the reason I am is that as much as we like the deregulation and kind of this independent currency type thing, if you ever expect big money to come in, and I'm talking about pension funds with trillions of dollars, I mean, just them putting 1% of their assets in Bitcoin would be massively positive for the price of Bitcoin. So I'm coming from the investor standpoint where I want to see the price go up. And the only way you're going to get that is if you get a framework of regulation and people actually know the rules, right? So one of the things in the stock market that I've learned over the years of trading is that the market doesn't necessarily care if it's a positive or a negative. They just don't like not knowing, right? They don't like that ability to not figure out what the rules are. So by getting regulation out there, you create a framework where these institutions can say, okay, now we can play in this field. We can play ball because we know the rules and we feel comfortable investing with our fiduciary responsibility other people's money. So I welcome regulation. I think it's needed. You saw over the last like 6 months bankruptcies and shady
Absolutely.
activities and all this. And investors honestly are scared of crypto in many situations. So I think you have to get this regulation.
For the institutional investors to engage with Wall Street firms, endowments, and pension funds, regulatory and legislative rules need to be in place. Right now, we have 1% engaging in crypto. You're not going to get the other 99% until they have clarity on what the rules of the road are. We're seeing new rules coming out from the Treasury, IRS, FINRA, and from the Fed and from the SEC and CFTC. We've got over 50 bills in the Congress right now, and all of this is very healthy.
Yeah, so I think gold has been doing amazingly well. Number one, if any investor out there was fully in gold, they would be thrilled this year, right? I mean, they would be so happy to only be down 5% or so on the year. And the other thing to remember is the gold chart is only down 5, give or take a percent, but the dollar has gone up 15% on the year. So if someone told me that the dollar was going to rise 15%,
Yeah,
I would say, oh, well, gold probably should be down 15% on the year at
right.
least. And the fact is, it's only down 5%, which shows to me it's relatively outperforming what it should be doing. And it tells me to also that you likely are having smart money accumulating, which is why it's not down as much. So I continue to be a huge bull on gold. I think, again, people love to hate on gold, but in reality, it's performed well. I mean, take a look at the euro chart, the gold euro chart, or the gold yen chart. It's an awesome. If you were in those assets via those currencies, you'd be loving gold even more this year. But I think, again, the fact that gold is holding up as well as it is with such a strong dollar is a testament that it's getting ready for a big bull run.
SEC Chair Gary Gensler has said that the agency should have a major enforcement role in crypto, particularly for tokens. In a speech this month, Gensler sounded a warning signal to organizations he believes are violating existing securities laws, asking staff to possibly fine-tune compliance for crypto security tokens and intermediaries.
I think Bitcoin still has another leg lower to 12 to 13,000. I think the stock market likely by end of year or early 2023 will tag the March 2020, well, the highs just before the March 2020 COVID collapse. So you're talking about the S&P downside to like 3,400 or so. The key for gold's outperformance is going to be when you hear the Fed pivot. The Fed pivot is going to be key because inflation's not going to be down to 2% or under, and it's going to tell you that the Fed is now more worried about the economy than about inflation.
That Bitcoin could be banned. Is that not a concern for you then?
No, not a concern for me at all, and mainly because there's too many jobs that have been layered on the crypto side of things with the blockchain and everything else, and there's too many big investors even involved in Bitcoin already where I just do not see that happening. So I think, if anything, it's kind of a scare tactic. They're trying to push people to think, oh my goodness, this could happen, and then when they do introduce some stringent regulations, it won't seem so bad. So again, for me, it's a matter of, Biden realizes, and by the way, there's a lot of politicians out there that do invest in Bitcoin and they're big fans of it. These are the politicians that know that they're running up the debt. They know the future of the dollar, and they're big fans of Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. So they're not going to be looking to ban it. And I think you're going to see that the regulation, whether it's a positive or a neutral or a negative, it's still going to allow for the existence of crypto, just with some rules to follow.
What's interesting is that despite the fact that Coinbase is down 70% from its high, the number of people who own it is unchanged, which means that those who want it are not fazed by this. Beyond the crypto community, rates of adoption from large investment firms demonstrate that digital currencies are being embraced by Wall Street. BlackRock and Schwab coming in reinforces to everyday investors that Bitcoin is not going away. We think that's now settled. It's now how big is that future?
I think that a digital dollar doesn't really solve the problem of what Bitcoin's solving, and that you have this stated 21 million run. That's the essence of it. So it can't be printed like the digital dollar. In fact, you could argue that the digital dollar can be printed even easier. And I understand what you're saying where, will the government say, oh, we don't want any competition? But I again, I think you have to look at it and say, if I was a politician, I would be looking at Bitcoin and saying, you know what, it's more of a gold. Why? So they're not going to ban gold then, but they're going to ban Bitcoin. But to me, it's a digitalized gold, so I don't see that being a conflict. And I think the key is Ethereum and some of these other altcoins, you're going to start to see regulation that lays a firm framework where they're going to be classified as securities. We know Gary Gensler has said that. And therefore, they're going to have reporting rules. There's going to be strict rules to report. But I think they're going to be treated much more like equities than kind of currencies. And so I think you have Bitcoin as the digital gold, and then you have a lot of these other cryptocurrencies that will have to report and be treated much more like equities.
So, do you think the government can ban Bitcoin? Tell us in the comments. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe. See you soon with the next video. Thank you so much for watching.